Would have thought I would have caught this at some point. Well, welcome back to Random Rod Shop, folks. Today we're going to see if we can fit that rocker we built last week. We need to put the return on the end of it, and we need to see about making a cab corner and the piece of the floorboard that actually sits underneath this thinking rocker panel. Let me show you what we're talking about. All right, you guys have been following along. You know, this is the corner we're working on here. We made this rocker. Now, we made that rocker last week. What we need to do before we fit this thing is we need to remake this lip right here, which really isn't that big a deal, right? It's just a 90 bend, but got to get it cut out of there, got to get one made, and I want to get this rocker fitted up. The reason I want to get the rocker fitted up is, I don't know about you, but I am really ready to close this corner in. Now, you guys have been paying attention. You know I've got a piece of the cab floor that we haven't tied into this, you know, this new brace. My son and I have been pondering. We both like that bench seat out of that, you know, out of the Factory International, but it would be nice if we had a few more options. So we are thinking real hard about cutting the entire seat pan out of here, because there's plenty of room underneath the truck. Right, there's nothing to get in the way of this changing the seat pan. So we are thinking about that. I'm procrastinating attaching this floor back here and in this corner until we get figured out, are we going to change the seat pan in here to fit a different seat. Now you might say, well, you could adapt this, but you know, at this point, it ain't that much trouble to cut that seat pan out of there. And that way, you know, you weld in a different seat pan and it's going to fit the seat, assuming you select the seat out of the car or truck that you pulled the seat pan out of. So, this probably, I hope you enjoy this video, but we're just going to be doing a lot of work. We're going to make that corner, we're going to fit the rocker, and then we're going to see what we can do about bending that up. That cab corner's got a lot of movement going on, right? Or I guess the metalworking guys would say there is a lot of shape and form going on. Still got some cleanup to do on it. All right, I'm going to put the camera on the tripod and we're going to do some work. Well, it looks like I'm gonna have to, we know we gotta replace this. Looks like I'm gonna have to replace this up here too. So right now I'm just gonna focus on cutting along that line right there and just rebuilding this angle, and we'll get that welded in, because I'd really like to position this rocker panel. Got some pinholes I still gotta fill in here. I'm not going to get carried away grinding the inside here. We'll clean it all up. We'll paint this thing. And we'll get on down the road. I got some rust converter to go on here. I think we're going to get the big grinder. there, so I'm going to have to weld that up. I'll get a jack under this and hold this up just a little bit. I got the fan going. It's really hot today. So I'm going to clean up, go find my rust converter. We're going to spray that on here, and we're going to make that lip. Okay, I know everybody's got their own choice. This just seems to be what has worked well for me. It's Rust Converter Ultra. You can order it in a lot of places. I think I got this off Amazon, but it seems to have always done me a good job. So that's what I continue to use. Now, keep in mind, it doesn't remove the rust. When I get over there on the Mustang and the Camaro, we're gonna do something. We're gonna use a rust remover, right? Because I'd like those things to be as clean as I can make them. All right, so I'm gonna paint this. I'm gonna paint this rust converter on here. We're gonna let that dry, and then we can clean this up and paint it. One last comment about that rust converter. I don't know what you guys are used to, but if you use this rust converter, and I've used different brands, and they all seem to operate the same way. If you don't paint that stuff after it cures, it's like it goes into double speed in terms of rusting. It rusts bad. And if you don't put if you're trying to do a nice paint job, you need to seal that stuff. If you use that on your car, you need to seal it. All right, we're gonna let that dry. It's hot enough today. That stuff's gonna dry pretty quick. I'm gonna get the welder over here. I've got a few pinholes in this thing. I'm gonna weld up the pinholes, and where I slice through the back rocker, I'm gonna go ahead and weld that up. Get this thing all ready. And then we'll go bend a piece of metal, and this should be plenty cured by then. That's thinner than I thought it was. I'm gonna get on the back side. I'm gonna clean that up, and we're gonna lay a piece of copper back there and see if we can weld it up. If not, we're gonna have to patch it. All right, let's go. You might ask why I'm grinding that off back there. International use galvanized rocker panels on the inside. I prefer not to weld that stuff. Alright, so got a piece of copper here, and this is just a bus bar out of a big electrical box. Big electrical box. Alright, I'm gonna hold that up on the back side of that. The weld won't stick to it. Since the weld won't stick to the copper, you can weld on you can kind of weld on it all you want. Let me stick this under here and see if I can get this thing tacked together. Okay, let's cut it out. Well, that was a lot thinner than it seemed. All right, let me mark out a patch, and we'll get that thing welded in there. All right. Well, that didn't take very long. That fits in there. We'll get that welded in there. And once again, one step forward and two steps back. But we'll get there. All right, let me get this welded up. I didn't get that one welded. Let me weld that one. All right. That's probably gonna be good enough. Let me paint this thing, and while that's drying, we'll go make this 90-degree bend here. All right. We got it painted up, and I don't know about you, but I don't think that looks too bad. That's all going to be covered up, and I got it painted good, and it's all good solid metal. All right, now we need to go work on that 90-degree bend. Let's go have a look at it. All right, so the way this is going to work, and I'll get the camera over here. There's that lip that I cut off earlier actually is part of this, and you can see it extends underneath the rocker. This bottom leg on this 90 is about 2 inches. Now it's got a stiffer bead on it here, and I think we'll try to run that through the bead roller to see if we can generate something close to that. So I think I need to cut some metal, and we'll go ahead and, you know, this 90 is pretty straightforward. So we'll go ahead and cut the metal, bend it up, and then see if we can bend this. All right, let me go let me go get a piece of metal. All right, let's see if we can get a bend on this. All right, I had one of the viewers say they wanted me to do a rundown on some of those metalworking tools, and you know, we've talked about these a number of times, but I probably haven't gone over on this one at least what the exactly how I went about doing this. I loosened that up for a, I was experimenting with another bend. Okay, to start with, that is a grater blade. Let me show you the end of it. Right, that's just a grater blade. Now the interesting thing is these were thrown away because this end is completely, I mean, this edge is completely worn off. And when I saw that, I'm like, well, that's interesting. Why didn't they just flip it around? Because the other edge has got a, I mean, the other side's got a nice sharp edge on it. Well, those holes are not symmetric on that thing. So let me tilt it back just a little bit. All right, those bolt holes are not symmetric. That means you really can't flip the thing around. Now, I don't know who came up with that bright idea, but anyway, I got a half a dozen of these things, 12 foot long. I think they're 12 foot long, maybe 8, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they're long. and they all have one good edge on them. So I looked at that and I'm like, well, that looks like a metal brake to me. So you can see I've got a piece of 1/4 inch angle iron, and I drilled it to the holes that was in that grater blade and just bolted it together. This is where the thing pivots. I don't know, there you can see that. So I made a dog leg, and it just pivots, and that's a bolt welded into a piece of, what is that? That's 1/2 inch steel there. So that is the pivot for the whole thing. On the bender, there's just a bunch of stuff I had piled around. So I didn't have a piece of 1/2 inch plate big enough, so you can see it's kind of been welded together in a couple of places to make it long enough. Then I bolted a piece of, I guess that's, what is that? Maybe 3/16 angle iron. Made some handles for it. They're drilled and tapped in there, so I can take off this angle iron. On the hinges are pretty standard brake hinges, right? So that bolt, the center line of that bolt is right at that corner right there, right? For a bender brake to work, you have to have that pivot right at that bend line. If you don't, the geometry's not going to work for you. So just drill a hole in that. Basically I made 3 plates, right? Drilled a hole through that was the size of that bolt, and really that bolt don't do anything. I had some, I was still pondering about some other ideas. So the reality of it is that bolt is welded right there, and it goes through this pin. So if you want to take this thing apart, I've got the hinge piece bolted right here into the table. So basically, the way it's set up right now, you can see on both those 2 bolts right there, and this half of the hinge will come off, and then you can the other side's just like it. So you can get this, what's this, a platen? I don't know. Anyway, it's the brake arm. All right, both sides are set up the same way. This here right here is just floating because I had an idea, and the more I've thought about it, I don't know. So if I come up with a use for it, I've procrastinated welding those things down because it really doesn't matter, right? There's enough meat right there and there to work as hinges on this thing. So in the end, all I use it for now is to put some tension on the bending arm. And there's only there's only been once or twice that I wanted that arm to be held out in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know that that's very useful as it sits now, but maybe down the road. Now the remaining piece is just the tension arm, right? And that really is as simple as it looks. I've got a piece of strap that goes from side to side, and then this bolt tightens up. That way you don't get flex in the middle of this. If you're bending a long piece, if you don't have some sort of support there, the bending arm will bend. Now, I know it may not seem like that, but there's a lot of forces involved in this when you're looking at a long piece. So anyway, that's pretty much all there is to it. The last piece is you know, this isn't required or anything like that, but I find it handy. I've got a bar that goes down to a foot pedal. And what that does is that raises the brake up. I'm normally working by myself, and sometimes I want to position the metal with two pieces, you know, with two hands. So that allows me to raise the brake up. It's really not more complicated than it looks. The bar goes down, got a rod down there, and you push down, right? And it just lifts up on it. The hold downs are pretty standard for, you know, metal brakes you're gonna see on YouTube. Just screw it down on both sides, tighten it down, and make your bend. All right, in terms of changes, so the one thing I'd really like to add to this bender is the ability to stick a pipe under here and roll the metal on a bigger curve. Now, there's really not much, you know, you look at that, there's really not much reason I can't do that. The issue is I can't tighten it down because the guides for the screws, those are welded in, and this bender, right? This bender moves in an arc. The hold down, it moves in an arc, and you don't have to get up very far before the screw binds in that guide, because the guide doesn't move. So I want to put some wiggle in that guide, because it's just nice to have the guide on there, but I want to put some wiggle on that guide so I can tighten this thing down when it's, you know, up off of the table. That way, you know, it doesn't take a lot of thinking here to think that I could make a finger brake out of this, because I've got the angle to lay the pieces on there, but I need the ability to clamp it down when it's raised up. That's really the only thing I really regret about this. Just for straight bending, this thing works pretty slick. I mean, let me measure that. So this thing will bend 48 inches. Anyway, it'll bend 4 feet of this shelving material, and really not complain too much about it. It's not as, you know, it won't give you a sharper bend as a nice, commercial bender, but it does a good job. I'm pretty happy with it. All right, let's get this thing bent up. Well, that ain't bad. Looks like just a touch overbit it. But I think we can work with that. All right, I'm gonna move the camera. I'm gonna get the bead roller over here. I'm gonna turn the fan back on. All right, so got the bead roller sitting here. This is one of the dies that comes with the Harbor Freight bead roller when you buy it. This is the medium-sized step die, and hopefully, let's see here, you can see that, but basically, you know, you put the two dies on there. That one goes like that, and that one will set up there like that, and you make the step. So, let me get these on the machine. Always checking to see if I'm putting it on right. And just between you and me, I still get it wrong a lot of times. All right, let's run a piece through there and see what it looks like. Now keep in mind, I haven't stiffened this one up. This is just like it came out of the box. It works for me, but if you want to bend the thicker stuff and you want to do it in, in one pass, you're going to have to work on this. This thing moves too much. But if you take your time and you make a couple of passes on it, it ain't so bad. Let's try it one more time. We're getting there. I think I'd like to try to get it just a little bit tighter. I'm gonna see if I can space that in just a little bit. Well, the way this shaft is made, there ain't no spacing that in. That means I need to space this one out. I'd like to get a little sharper bend on this thing. I can see that I'm gonna have to do some shimming on this feed roller at some point. We need to take out something to play. Alright, well, we're not going to worry about that today. You saw the frame tweaking that time. I'm trying to put a pretty sharp bend on this thing. All right. Well, I think that's what we're going to go with. This one has a 90 on it. Let's see here. This one has a 90 on it right there. But I think we're gonna live with that. All right. I got to thinking, this ought to work. This really ought to work. So, did some changing and, move the dies around the other way. Or, quit poking through the dies again. That's what we got there. Now it would appear that if I stick this piece right here in the brake, I can straighten that up, and that's almost 90 degrees, which is what this is. Well, all right, let's run it through there. All right, because of the way I put the bend in first, I had to rearrange the dies again. Let's have a look. And those of you who, been watching, the feed roller is reversible because I got a 1/2-inch reversible drill on here. Well, ain't that fun? I think that's going to prove to be problematic. I think the biggest problem is I can't hold a straight line. Alright. Well, at this point, let me clamp this thing to brake, see if we can straighten it up. Kind of one of those best laid plans of mice and men, right? Well, folks, I'm not happy with that one. I think we're going to make another one. Let me recut another piece of metal, and I'll get back to you. Well, I think I saved it, folks. I remembered that, I set the gap on this brake for this sheet metal. Then I went in with my fandangled blunted chisel, right? And just beat it into submission. That makes me think I need to set a guide up on this bead roller. Yeah. Alright. It's not perfect. And it's still got some hoopy-doo in it. But keep in mind, this thing goes under the rocker. Like so. I think that will be fine. I think it's good enough for government work. As Puddin would say, done. D-U-N. Alright, I'm going to go measure this, and I'll come back and we'll cut this thing, and we'll see if we can get it in there. Alright folks, you know, I say this a lot. I think we're on a downhill slide. I think I got it measured, and I think we're ready to weld this thing in. So that gets welded to the old piece right there. I've got a jack under this to raise the floor pan up, and this sets underneath the piece that we put on earlier. So I think we're ready to get this thing started going in here. My thought is we'll get this side positioned, make sure it's all flush and where it's supposed to be. And then I think probably we'll work on this back piece, because it's not down all the way back here. So I'll get some clamps on this thing, get this clamp down, and then probably just, you know, run a zip cut through this thing once I get it all put where it needs to go, and then we'll weld this all up solid. Then the rocker goes on top of that. Alright, I'm going to put you back on the tripod, and we're going to see if we can get this thing together. Alright folks, well, it's tacked in there and I'm pretty happy with it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get that welded in there. That's going to take me a bit. I'll come back when I'm getting ready to put the rocker back in there. Alright, see you in a bit. Well folks, I got it in there I think. Let me show you. I think that looks pretty good. Now if we can get the rocker fit in there, I think we'll be close to being on a downhill slide. I think first pass is this back rocker panel has to be welded to this piece all along the back side. So I probably ought to do that before I put that rocker on there, because that rocker is going to have a weather strip, pinch weld if you will, all along here. Let me see if I can get that welded in there. Now I'll hit those with a grinder, and we can finally see if that rocker is going to fit on here. Alright, I'm going to put some weld-through primer on that, and we'll let it dry, and we'll see if we can fit that rocker. I'll be right back. Alright folks, well, you know, some days are better than others. I thought we were doing well today, but let me show you what I've discovered about these doors. Now you would have thought I would have caught this at some point. Let's see here. Can you see that? Let's see. That door is out, right? That door is out. I don't know. That looks like maybe 3/8 of an inch. That door is too far out this way. And then when you get back here, that door is almost flush. It follows the nice curve, but up there, I don't know, can you see that? That door is out. So I got to do some research. I can't believe that's the way that door was from the factory. But I don't know. The other side's just like it. I have been whacking and beating and all kinds of stuff. See if we can get a good view. It's not as far out. It's not as far out as the other side, but it is definitely out. I have been working to get this end flush, but nothing is happy. So that's supposed to set like that, and relatively speaking, that's where it's supposed to be. Or I mean, that's where it's at. This side over here, I'm beginning to wonder. You can see I went ahead and took a slice in the rocker panel, but that lines up there, and we weren't that far off on when we made this rocker, but to get this to flush up on this side, it's too far out. So I'm gonna go look at my dad's or my wife's grandpa's truck, because far as I know, nothing has ever been moved on that truck. I know the original owner, and we've owned it, so I don't think anything's ever moved. So I'm gonna go find out what this thing, and then I'll look at the other white truck we got and see how these doors are lined up, because I don't want to weld this rocker in until I'm sure I know where those rockers go. And if the factory misaligned them, I'm going to do my best to make that all line. I'm not real happy about the front of that door being kicked out. Okay, well, I think that's all we're going to get time to do today. I really hoped we'd get that rocker panel put in, but I don't want to put it in unless I know that's where it needs to go. Okay, well, I appreciate you watching. If you're subscribed, I really do appreciate it. We're coming up on 1,000 subscribers, so if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And until next time, I'm going to do some research, and next time we're going to figure out where these doors and these rocker panels need to go. I'm Random, and I'm out of here.